Luis Acevedo. We are going a little earlier today just because I have to be somewhere at 1, which is usually when I do the live streams. Got to check out a car. Hopefully going to get one today. That's the plan. But yeah, so there's a couple things going on in the news that we wanted to cover. And then don't forget, tonight at about 11:45, Mick and I will be doing the MOT Today show. So tune into that. That'll be around midnight tonight, Eastern Standard Time. So let's jump right into the news here. Well, I guess we'll start this off with people wanting to come in. If you want to come in, that's fine. And then we'll cover the news as we go. What's going on?
Hey, what's going on, my friend? How you doing?
I'm doing well. Yourself?
Man, I can't complain. I'm TikTok surfing.
Right on, right on.
Let me see here. Where do I want to start at first? You know what? I want to start on the topic of Andrew Tate because that's a very fun topic.
Right.
I really go a day without seeing him on my For You page.
Same.
I always see Andrew Tate, or I think the guy's name's Charleston White. Those two either on this app or YouTube, okay. And they're everywhere. Especially Andrew Tate, he's everywhere, and I kind of understand why. So, me, what I've done is I like to study things, right? And so I've kind of studied him a little bit, and what I found is that he says a lot of things that people might say are misogynistic or outlandish. And honestly, I think these things are done on purpose. I think a lot of what he's doing is a lot of the things that he says are done in such a way in order to create attention around his brand so that he can market and sell Hustle's University and things like that. And of course, there's a lot of things that he says that he definitely believes in 100%. There are some things that I could look at him and go, okay, I don't agree with you here, but there are some things I could look at and go, okay, what you're saying makes sense. I definitely agree. So, there, I guess there's that aspect. So that's kind of how I see him.
Yeah, I agree that he is really good at marketing. I think that he is promoting some good things, but is mostly a gatekeeper. He is not outside of the Matrix. He is, I would say, one of the top Agent Smiths, as opposed to being Morpheus. And as far as him being a good role model for men, I don't think so. I think that he is a pimp. He admits to being a pimp. Pimps aren't good role models. Being promiscuous is not a good thing. That goes against his whole message to the West, that the West is falling. So he says the West is falling because of lack of morality, yet he promotes being promiscuous. He says that you must be promiscuous before you find a good woman, which then means that you need to break a lot of women psychologically, physically, before you can find the woman that you'll marry. That's what he promotes. And that to me is disgusting. Right?
That's interesting. I never heard him say that. But
yes.
I never heard him say that.
I listened to pretty much everything Andrew Tate has put out there, and I have found a lot of his stuff to be accurate, but even more to be wrong. I agree with him as far as discipline, keeping your word, that women want a strong man, that you shouldn't be super emotional around them, that you shouldn't put women on pedestals, you shouldn't treat them like they're everything. I get that. Like all that stuff I get. The traditional gender roles about the man as the leader in the household, of course. Right. But the issues come into play where he's promoting promiscuity. He is teaching people how to start webcam businesses, because you can pay for some courses called like the PhD. He has stuff outside of Hustle's University as well that doesn't get talked about much. But he and his brother, can give counseling on how to start webcam industries. And it is the opposite of what he's trying to promote. And he stated that he went to Romania and that he found that they have high morality there, but the ironic thing is that the women that he's claiming have higher morality, he's saying are their families are letting him date their daughters. And then also they have different totally sex trafficking laws there, which is that, and their internet speed is arguably why he went to Romania to boom his company, internet speeds, and their lacks of sex trafficking laws in Romania.
Well, that's the thing. It's like I said, the whole figure around Andrew Tate is a very interesting one. Like I said, I think, and like again, this might be a stretch, but like I said, I believe a lot of the things that we're seeing in regards to the allegations on the pimping women and all these other things, I think, and I could be wrong, but my theory is that it's all cap, all of it. It's all cap and lies in order to promote him and his brand as like this self-proclaimed like type of pimp type of character who can get any type of woman that he wants to. So hey, I'm an entrepreneur, I'm a millionaire, I can show you how I did it. Hey, here's Hustlers University, buy into this. I honestly, you know what I mean? Because it's like, because you brought up an interesting point, because on the one hand you talk about morality, but on the other hand you talk about, okay, you're in really essentially the sex business. You had a webcam company, which is it's oxymoronic, it's contradictory. So that's why I tend to believe that it's all kind of made up. And then to further kind of illustrate that, I've seen him say things that are outlandish and then be like 5 minutes later just laughing about it. There'll be some, like this interview, I think his name is Tom Sakura, where he's saying sort of outlandish things about women, when like women should be pimped and all this other stuff. And then like 2 minutes later, he breaks character completely and like laughs. So that's why I'm more inclined to believe that it's more like satire than anything. But I don't know.
It could be. I think he's hilarious. I do. I think he's funny. I think he's charming. He's charismatic. I like the way that he speaks with conviction. Those things are missing in the quality of men today. So I do appreciate that aspect of him as well. I look at him as a, more so than anything, probably a comedian. I would not take life advice from the guy, but he is entertaining to listen to.
Oh,
but
he's entertaining. But yeah, I see what you're saying. Because I guess you're definitely an intelligent guy, so you can kind of separate the meat from the bones type of thing. You can kind of pick out what's good and what's bad, whereas other people may not have the ability and take what he says to heart completely. So I get what you're saying. I will agree with you there. And they may take it down the wrong lens and the wrong lane to be like, okay, these women are pimps, these are bitches,
right?
We should, I get that. I understand that.
Yep. So I think men just need a better role model, and he's the result of the toxic femininity that we're experiencing today, the radical feminist. See, with every action, there's a reaction. Doesn't necessarily have to be equal or opposite to it, because we're not in physics, right? But it is a reaction, and Andrew Tate is the reaction of this radical feminism. So now let's go through some comments here. So actually, let's go through some of the news pieces first, and then if somebody else wants to hop on in, feel free to hop on in. Okay, he wants to come back in. Must have been a mistake there.
Yeah, I don't know what just happened.
Yeah.
But no, I definitely hear that. So I wanted to jump to this other one, this topic here, about the IRS is arming agents.
Right.
So I read, I think this was maybe 2 or 3 days ago, that there's a law that was passed that the Biden administration pushed through as a bipartisan bill that basically, I think they called it, and you may know this, I don't know the exact name, but it's the
Inflation Reduction Act, I believe.
Yeah. Yes. Inflation Reduction Act. And part of the bill gave a lot of resources to the IRS to hire more agents so that they can collect on taxes. And I think they're hiring close to 67,000, I believe.
I think it's 87,000.
It's 87,000.
Yep.
Okay, I might be wrong there. So now what's going to happen is that more than likely Americans are going to be receiving a lot more audits. Again, my opinion is that if you're talking about the general public, we're going to pay more taxes for the most part. Mm-hmm. So if most people who are, I guess, affluent, who own big multinational corporations, they find ways and loopholes to be able to avoid taxes. So really, ultimately, it's going to be the average person that's going to be really hurt in the long run. Kind of by this. At least that's how I see it. So.
Yeah, so I talked about this the other day, but I wanted to talk about the arming of the IRS specifically today. So just to give you my perspective on the whole IRS situation with the 87,000 agents and the additional nearly $200 billion that they received through this passage, is that, first off, the IRS, most people are unaware of this, have been in crisis mode for years.
Yep.
Most people don't know that there's been a staffing issue at the IRS for years. Hence why there's been so many delays and people not getting refunds whatsoever. And I think that this issue is just going to continue. Just because you now are saying you can hire 87,000 agents doesn't mean that the problem is going to be solved overnight. This is going to be a multi-year fix, and it may not ever get fixed. And the reason I say it may not ever get fixed is simply because of the fact that the average intelligence in the United States has gone down precipitously, and we don't see a reverse in trend as of now.
Damn.
Which means those 87,000 agents, they're probably not going to be as good as they used to be. So if you have lower quality people entering as far as intelligence and capability, well, then there's going to be more mistakes. So just because you added more people in there and you're giving it more money doesn't mean it's going to run more efficiently. So I think that they're going to run into a lot of issues, a lot of mistakes. It's more so a fear tactic than anything. Does this mean that people aren't going to be persecuted by the IRS more rigorously, the middle class, lower class? No, but it means that it's not going to happen at the volume where it's going to affect most people. And even if it does happen, the IRS isn't an evil entity where they're just trying to hurt the people. You can make the argument that tax is taxation or theft. I get it. You can make the argument that taxes are unconstitutional. I get it. You can make all these arguments, but ultimately the IRS is just doing a job that they're set up for. And taxes, in my mind, are not evil. I'm of the belief that you render unto Caesar's what is Caesar's, and the United States dollar does not belong to me. It does not belong to you. It belongs to the government and the Federal Reserve, who uses the IRS as a collection agency. So it belongs to them. I get it. We can argue and bicker about taxes, but as long as you're filing your taxes properly, as long as you're not doing anything that is suspect, you will probably be fine. And even if you're not, I'm not encouraging this, you probably will still be fine, right? So as far as the arming of the agents go, that's very interesting. But I found out that there's a criminal investigation section in the IRS, which does things abroad as well, not just the United States. So if you're against white crime criminals rather, and you want to see them being persecuted more, well, I think that the arming of those agents will definitely be more intimidating. I don't know. I have to think about it some more about the arming of the agency, but I don't think that's going to be much harm to the average citizen. I think it's mostly scare tactics.
Okay, I might concede there. I might concede to you on that. Now, I want to get your opinion on this topic. I think it says monarchy is on the way.
Is the way.
Is the way?
Yeah.
Monarchy. So explain to me what you mean by when you said that.
Yeah, so I think that monarchy is the best form of government. It's the form of government that's lasted the longest historically. It's one of the oldest forms of government there is. It's helped created the civilization in which we live in today, and it will provide more cohesion to a society. Corruption will be easier to sniff out than in a republic or a democracy, because in a republic or a democracy, you're going to have a multitude of politicians coming in and out continuously. It's going to be a continuous stream of random people coming to notoriety and then fading out of the public eye, and then they're making millions of dollars, and then they're out lobbying for policies that they may not even believe in, but they're getting a fat check from lobbyists. And it's going to be hard to pinpoint where the corruption is, who's pulling the levers of power, etc. And then you also have, with republics and democracies, this with the constant change, not only is it hard to find the corruption, but you're going to have an issue having any kind of agreement to pass long-term plans. Because in the House of Representatives, like let's take our political institution, for example. House of Representatives get 2 years in office before they have to run again. Most of their first term is going to be spent ingratiating themselves in their party to win favor, to get support, to win their reelection. And then it's also going to be favoring, campaigning, getting fundraising throughout that. And then it's going to be very difficult for you to pass bills at the same time. Pass anything that's going to be long-term because somebody can replace you in the next 2 years. You can have the whole House of Representatives be replaced every 2 years. So how would you have any long-term plans? This is why China and Russia can make long-term plans because they have a president for life. Their government's more stable. Ours is more precarious and it's just unstable when you have rotating politicians. Whereas if you I'm for making, let's say a parliament, right, to fit the monarchy that will be in there for a long time. A long time. I mean like decade, maybe 2 decades that you serve as somebody in the parliamentary membership. And then the king should obviously be there for life.
So let me ask you this then, because there's something, I don't know, I'm not 100% certain if that's the route to go. Because I think whether it's, a republic or a democracy or a monarchy or constitutional monarchy similar to the UK, I think, if there's corruption within those systems, there's going to be issues. So now, my family originally from Nigeria, right? So in Nigeria, at one point was part of the British colony. It was part of the UK, right? Up until October of 1960.
Okay.
And most of the world was like that. Canada still is to this day. Jamaica still is to this day. Barbados recently pulled away from the Queen's control. Even the UK, Hong Kong as well. There's plenty of places around the world that may argue that and say, okay, we're not sure if a monarchy is the way to go, because again, with the British as a good example, they conquered a lot of the world and they were corrupt in doing so, and took a lot of resources. And the reason why they're in the position that they're in is because they went around the world, and took resources for themselves. So I don't know if the monarchy is the complete way to go. I would say, like I said, any system, like I said, whether it's a republic or monarchy or anything like that, if we can weed out corruption and the person that we're electing and putting in is a moral and decent human being who's fair and who is just and is willing to deliver justice and law and righteousness, then I would be for that. But like I said, power corrupts and absolute power corrupts absolutely. So that's that. At least that's how I see it. That's for me.
Yeah, no, I totally respect that point of view.
Yeah.
Just to kind of counter that a little bit, though, I mean, the USA is doing similar things to what the monarch in England did, and we don't have a monarchy here. We're doing neo-colonialism.
I would agree with that.
So it doesn't matter your form of government, right? Yeah. You can still colonize under a republic.
I agree.
Yep.
I agree. No. That's why I was giving you that point. I'm like, I can
gotcha.
Agree. Now, a monarchy would be good if the people in question were to do the will of the people and really were involved with improving the lives of others. Then I'm not against that. Then if it works, I'm all for it. But then if it's just going to be corrupt anyway, then it's like, okay, these people, we need to get them the hell out immediately because they don't serve our interests. And going to the United States, they have, I believe, 800 different naval bases across the globe. So,
right.
And again, I understand why the U.S. does this. It's the same reason why China is going to Africa and buying up a lot of real estate property here. It's the same reason why Russia is making moves to make the ruble stronger and taking over the Ukraine. Countries do this to put themselves in a position. It's a geopolitical game of chess that they're playing. They put themselves in a position to be able to succeed and to be the top power, and so they need to be able to beef up the military, get resources, land,
100%.
so on, data, intelligence, so on and so forth. So yes, so I'll say that. So let me ask you this. Okay, you said, let me see. Tell me about this. I was reading a little bit about this in the Wall Street Journal a couple of days ago about the whole partnership between China and Saudi Arabia. I wanted you to tell me kind of your take on that.
Yeah, so from what I understand, I read a little bit about it yesterday, and then I read more about it today. So by no means am I like an expert in this particular thing, but I would say that what's going on is basically China and Saudi Arabia are partnering up for energy purposes to intensify their energy partnerships, and it's going to expand outside of just oil, right? It's going to go into other factors of or sectors of energy, such as like catching carbon, which I don't know. I'm not a big fan of this whole climate change agenda. I think most of it's nonsense. I know that climate change is real, but I don't believe the reasons they're telling us it's happening. I think the climate change is very natural. Anyway, so yeah, they're partnering up over there in increasing their supplies of oil. As far as I understand, that they're going to be trading with each other. And then the other day, just to add this in there, because I think it's a part of the bigger picture, Iran just said that they're going to be paying rubles. They're going to be exchanging oil for rubles as opposed to the United States dollar. And the reason that ties into that is because it's showing that the United States is losing its influence over the Middle East and over the countries that own the oil. It's going over to the Russians and Chinese. So I think what's going to happen is going to be a slow process. It's going to take a few years where the Middle East shakes itself of the United States and just joins the Eastern powers that will become the true power of the world over time.
You know what's interesting, man, is that, like I said, I've been reading about this also, and I think I think that's slowly where we're headed. I hate to have to say that, but I think this is very interesting, right? So what I've seen within the last, so I'm in my 30s, bro. So
okay.
What I've noticed within the last 10 years or so is that there is a slow shifting. First, there's a slow shifting as far as politics and how people think and behave in the United States, right? There is a point where, Americans were a lot more patriotic and supported their country and supported the military. Now, what I've noticed is that due to a lot of the politics within the last 10 years, that has shifted. And a lot of that has to do with, I believe, identity politics that plays a role in it, whether it's, BLM or LGBTQIA plus issues, or issues debating communism versus socialism and capitalism and a lot of different political ideologies, along with, the media showing a lot of the police brutality and all those other issues. I think that's created an atmosphere where Americans are way more divided now than ever. And then not to mention even the whole gender war between men and women, it seems like. So I think now we're at a point where America is probably the most divided it's ever been. And with that being said, it has, I believe, allowed other nations to be able to put themselves in a position to be able to combat the supremacy of the United States, right? This is countries like Russia now, the countries like China. China right now, me and my homie, he's from Zambia. He owns a tax business here. And we talk about this all the time. He's in Zambia now, and we talk about how the Chinese, what they've done is they've gone over to Africa and they've bought up a lot of infrastructure. So now what they'll do is that they'll give countries what they refer to as loans, right? And what happens is that the leadership can't pay the loans back. And so what the Chinese do is, okay, they'll say, since you can't pay these loans back, we have to take something as collateral. So you do. And in Zambia's case, you have China that owns the copper mine. That's number one. The biggest energy company, and also the airport too. They own that. They own the airport. They own the Zaventem airport now. And so they've done this there. They went to Djibouti and set up ports. They went to Nigeria. So they're making moves left and right. They're even buying up biotech companies and land over here in the U.S. and in Canada. So every other country is starting to move, and the U.S. is slowly starting to lose power and influence. And my fear is that the U.S. won't be around. And before 2030, I hope I'm wrong about this, but I have a gut feeling we might not be around much longer.
Yeah, I tend to agree with that analysis 100% almost. Like, I think that a civil war at this point is inevitable.
Yeah.
We're heading down that path, and I don't see a change in trajectory. I say I feel it's inevitable, but things can happen to keep it from happening. But I don't know. I don't see a change. I really don't see a change in the way that we're operating as a country. As you said, we're so divided.
Yeah, Gen X, Jake. I hope I'm wrong about that. I hope we'll be here forever, bro. But from what I'm seeing, just geopolitically, like I said, the division in our country, along with what other nations are doing and how the current leadership is, they seem to be, because the Biden administration, they strike me as an administration that they're not focused. Their focus is somewhere else. It's not necessarily towards, I guess you could say, the movement and the betterment of the United States. It seems like a lot of the people that are in power are going after their own self-interest. You know what I mean? That's what it looks like to me. Whether it's Nancy Pelosi, Mitch McConnell, a lot of these guys, it seems like their interests are not the interests of the general public, right? And I believe a lot of them will sell out in the drop of a dime. It just, and I want to be wrong about that, because I don't want to think that about the people who are supposed to serve me, in my interest.
I'm very sympathetic to that. I am, but I think that what should be focused on more is localizing your supply chains and becoming more self-sufficient. I think, and having big families. You said you're from Nigeria, and if I recall correctly, you guys are known for having big families, and that's beautiful. And I think that Americans need to do that. But right now we don't do that because we're so scared of the future, or we're, thinking it's mainly fear out of the future, or fear that you won't have enough money. It's insane things when it's like, you can go to so many other countries and you can see people having huge families with little money. It's like, you don't need a lot of money to have big families. So I think that the future, if it's going to get better, which I do believe it's going to get better, I am an optimist. While I don't think that we can avoid civil war at this point, I do believe that the future is very bright for those who are preparing for it. So becoming a valuable member in your society and your community directly, providing a valuable service, a valuable product, raising your children right, raising them well, believing in God, and being more self-sufficient. I think that those are that's the pathway forward, I believe.
I like your outlook. I definitely like that optimistic outlook. I try also to be optimistic as well, and I think I will agree with that 100%. I think being able to be of service to your family and your community, I believe that is important also. And I do believe that technology has made us somewhat lazy.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Because, and even me, myself included, when you can get any type of information or data about anything or everything in the world, right at your fingertips at the drop of a hat, it might make you a little bit lazy. I'm not going to lie. I think part of the reason, and just going back to what you were saying about the IRS and being understaffed, a lot of these companies are understaffed. Mm-hmm. And I actually talked about this in another live. I was in a live where, because I'm a millennial, right? So there's this guy who was a Gen Xer, and he had this banner up saying, okay, Gen Xers versus millennials. Millennials are lazy. That was kind of his whole tagline. And I commented and I said, said, you know what? I hear what you're saying. I don't completely agree, but I hear what you're saying. Because with the current generation now, millennials and Gen Z, right? We have technology at our disposal. We grew up with it. And so with that being said, it's not to say that we're not lazy and we don't want to work. We will work, but the issue is that, okay, am I going to work over here at this job for 8 hours for $100 when really I spend an hour to drive to work and an hour to get back and traffic? Am I going to spend 10 hours to get 100? Or can I just go and maybe go on a live and do a live for maybe 30 minutes and get Cash App donations and get maybe $300 in the same hour? Or maybe, let's say, do like a study. I've seen people do this. They'll do like these research studies, and then in 1 week they'll come out with $5,000 in 1 week. I've seen that. You know what I mean? Or some type of gig, or even better, doing DoorDash for 3-4 hours and making $200. I saw a guy on TikTok. He made off of DoorDash now. He made $160,000.
Yep.
Off of DoorDash. That was it.
Yeah, man.
You have doctors and lawyers who don't make that money.
I know. So, like, for example, like my life, I own 2, and then, by the way, I got a couple other people that want to join, and then I'm going to have to I only do one person at a time. It's been a real pleasure talking to you, by the way. But I have, I have 2 businesses. So we have the media company, which is kind of slow at the moment, which this is a part of the media company of what we do for it. And then I have a commercial cleaning company. And then outside of that, I do DoorDash. And I occasionally will help sell some solar panels. But with that source of income, I make more than, a lot of people do. And I mean, I can say that I work over 40 hours a week. You can say that I'm always working because I'm trying to get new business. I'm planning out ideas for the streams, etc. But I don't feel like I'm working doing that either. I would not say that I'm like somebody who's putting in 40, 50 hours a week going somewhere that they don't want to go. So yeah, that's a huge issue when you have an economy like we have right now that incentivizes non-priority service over prioritized service or products. Yeah, it's bad, man. That's why nobody wants to work. This is something I've been really talking about too. Like, then you also have to factor in cryptocurrencies. How many young people have gotten pretty well off because of crypto? And additionally, how many people are starting cryptocurrency businesses that are young? So, I mean, the economy's changing.
Yeah, absolutely. I 100% agree. But I'll let somebody else on. I'll be in the comments, lurking a little bit, having some fun. So
awesome, man.
I appreciate it, man. You're the man.
Likewise. Thanks, man. Have a good one. Hey, what's going on? Can you hear me?
Yeah. Hey, what's going on, man?
Not a whole lot. How are you?
I'm not too bad.
Good,
just I heard what you said about so you think there's going to be a civil war?
I do.
So I disagree because what do you what do you think about authoritarianism? You wouldn't like that, right?
I don't know. I mean, it depends. They're not necessarily bad.
What, authoritarian?
Yeah.
Okay. So, for example, if Trump or Biden was going to take over, who would you pick?
Probably Trump.
Really? Even though it says Trump is a traitor in your thing?
Yeah, because that's a specific point that I'm making.
Okay. Well, the point I'm trying to make is you're okay with it to an extent.
I don't think that it's the evil that everybody proclaims it to be. No, it doesn't scare me. I think it's just another form of government that can be good or bad.
That's exactly why there would never I don't think there would be a civil war. I think there would be skirmishes, and they would get just stomped out pretty quick. Because we would immediately, the people that I see, like you said it, a lot of people in the comments were talking about how people are content with the life that they live now. A lot of people talk a big game. I have a lot of friends that always talk about, how they fight the government if they were going to take their guns and blah, blah, blah. And then whenever I, like where I'm around their wife, I run it by her. I'm like, hey, would you move out into the woods with your husband, dig holes in the ground, take shits and wipe your ass with leaves and eat squirrels and nuts, forage? Or would you fight the government, or would you just continue life as it is? And they all laugh at their husbands, thinking their husbands thinking that they would join them. Their kids wouldn't freaking join them. Their wives wouldn't join them. They not as many friends as they think would join them. You know what I'm saying? So,
well, I would say this:
would be very willing to let the government just take over.
No,
if it got too crazy.
So what I would say to that particular point you made is, this is why women are not military leaders, because if wartime comes, they will be following their husband. She doesn't see that now because they're not in war. Women aren't built to think about those things. Men are. So that's the first thing I would say to that. Their kids would also follow. In times of terror, times of horror, you're going to want your dad around. You're going to want your husband around. And you're going to want to follow them. You're not going to say, I'm not going to go with you. And so anyway, this is a slow build. So you have to think about this long-term and not linearly. There are multiple patterns that have been set that show us people will revolt over time. I don't agree with the Civil War, by the way. I am against revolutions. But we see diversity increasing. Not good. We see food plants being destroyed. The farmers right now, a lot of them that have cattle, they're selling their cattle prematurely. They're selling some of their milking cows for beef because they're concerned about droughts. And so what we're going to witness probably next year is a price reduction in beef because it's going to be abundant. But then what's going to happen after that is multi-year beef shortages because of the slaughtering that's going on currently. So you have to think about long-term what's taking place. You also have to factor in geopolitical. The Chinese, the Russians, a lot of country in the Middle East will in the near future have the power to sanction the United States to the point where we will be feeling it economically. The supply chains are breaking down globally, and the United States relies heavily on global supply chains and global manufacturing. So all of these factors will play a role. When people get desperate and they can't get food, which will be a lot of people in inner cities, a lot. We already see the chaos right now in inner cities. We saw a mini example of what will happen at scale during the whole cough and sniffle debacle with that whole CHOP autonomous city that came about, I think, in Washington or Oregon, one of the two. That was just a little taste of what's to come in big cities. It's going to start in big cities, Los Angeles, New York City, probably some southern states as well.
I got to disagree because the CHOP example you're using, like that was intentionally like cut off. Like the government, the government they're not going to let the metropolitan areas fall.
They already are.
Understand that.
Do you not? So really quick, do you know
I
that?
live in a rural area and we're just as we're just as shorthanded here or as it is already.
Yeah, but there's more
so
morality.
Cities.
There's more morality in the rural areas. The rural areas will be better in a lot of ways. But are you aware that like the Los Angeles Police Department has been taken over pretty much by certain Mexican cartels? Like the cartels are taking over a lot of these big cities, man. The cartels are buying unincorporated towns. Do you know what that means? That means that the cartels can form their own governments inside of the U.S. and then spark. It's going to happen. It's inevitable. Yes. There's so many things that are going on.
Do you have like a source for this?
Just look it up.
You're literally the first person I've ever heard even say that.
Yeah, just look it up. There's a bunch of cartels that are buying unincorporated towns, which if you have an unincorporated town, it means you can't collect state tax. But you can grow the population and form your own government if you buy an unincorporated town. And if you grow the town big enough to a certain population, you can then file to become incorporated into the state, which then means you are now recognized by the state as a government within the state, your own local government. And then you can have like your own laws and stuff like that, just like any local government can, within the confines of the state constitution and the federal constitution. Look at OSHA. Do you know who OSHA is? The guy, the Indian dude who came over here in the United States and took over a whole city?
No, I thought you were talking about OSHA as in the business. Like, no, I don't know who that is.
Yeah, so there's a documentary on him. I think it's called like The Wild something, but he did that as well with his people. And the cartels are doing that at scale in the United States. And there's a bunch of other outside forces doing similar things in the United States. And then you also have the TV that's pushing out propaganda and diversity amongst the population. So, yeah, I do think civil war is inevitable.
What kind of diversity are you talking about? Like, what's your issue with diversity?
Diversity, first off, diversity comes from the word diverse or divide. What good comes from dividing?
I mean, I don't think that's the type of, like, I mean, you might be correct on that, but that's not like the concept of diversity does not, like, that's not what it means when, like, people were speaking about diversity.
Because they don't understand it. Yeah. But so they don't see it that way, because programmed not to.
So, all right. So diversity means divide. How's that being applied?
Divide and conquer.
Okay. You're saying a lot of stuff, but you're not really, like, again, like, how is that? So what about, like, what do you mean by that? Divide, like, how are they doing that with diversity?
In multiple ways.
How are they dividing and conquering?
Yeah, in multiple ways. So the first way that they did it was ripping apart multi-generational homes. Families used to live in multi-generational homes where you'd live with your grandparents, your aunts and uncles on the same piece of land, sometimes in the same home. But then that all changed during the Industrial Revolution, because then the parents and the kids decided that it might be better for the kids to go out into the cities. And then you get the tenement homes, you get these ghettos, etc. And then these cities that were formed because of the Industrial Revolution were segregated. They were self-segregated, not government enforced. They were self-segregated. The Italians stayed with the Italians. The Germans stayed with the Germans. The Polish stayed with the Polish, etc., etc. And that was the beginning of destroying the family. And then once you go further into it, you then have the nuclear family and then your extended family. So now the controllers, if you will, had successfully got the people to go along with their plan, because the plan would have never worked if the people didn't comply. All right, so you need compliance in order for any of these plans to work. And they complied because they thought the cities would bring them better lives as opposed to working on the farm, and that was not true. So
why are farmers having such a rough time right now?
Yeah, so a lot of farmers are. Yeah, that's true. So that has nothing to do with what I'm saying, though. Obviously, that every economic structure you have will have its ebbs and flows. Farmers will have good seasons. Farmers will have bad seasons. That's not my point. I'm talking specifically about the destruction of the family, which will begin the act of diversity. So, and divide and conquer, because then you're making the families weaker. Now, mom and dad don't have the huge safety net that they used to have with their grandparents, with their parents, with their brothers, sisters, etc., aunts, uncles, cousins, etc. Now that's been torn away from them. And this was the result. And this ended up in creating the welfare state, because people didn't have the family to depend on as they used to, because the family in your community and your local church were your insurance, were your safety net. You needed extra money, you would go to one of the following, as I've already listed. So doing away with the extended family and multi-generational homes was the first affront on the American people. And then you have the attack of the nuclear family. Get the women out of the household and give the women the right to vote. So then you're dividing the family. Once again, because now you're allowing for division to be sown within the household. So the wife can say, oh my God, I really like this one person. And the husband can say, I don't like that person. Now you have broken the unity of marriage. So I can keep going on and on about that's just the family that's been divided.
So you're saying so the problem is that women became more independent and there's more I don't know, there's more people of different ethnic backgrounds in each other's neighborhoods.
That is part of the issue.
And this was pushed by the government, exactly how? Didn't women fight for their own right?
No, so actually, this is the history of how women got the right to vote. So the first state that passed the right to vote, I believe, was Wyoming for women. And the only reason the Democrats pushed it, and I'm not a Democrat or Republican, by the way. I consider myself to be a Christian nationalist, so I am right-wing, but I do not like the Republican Party at all. Anyway, So with what happened in Wyoming, do you know how women got the right to vote and why they got the right to vote? Do you really know the real reason how it all started?
No, I guess I don't.
So the real reason it got all started was because African Americans got the right to vote by the Republican Party. And so the Democrats were like, hey, we need to get the women to vote because now the Republicans got the blacks. So now we need to get the women. That's the only reason women got the right to vote. The only reason in Wyoming. And then that percolated throughout the states. But it backfired on them because the women went and voted Republican because there was still higher morality, so they stuck with what their husbands believed in more. And the idea of marriage, this is the thing that people don't understand. It's not that men have more independence than women or women have less independence than men. It's that when you're married, you are one. You are no longer just yourself. You are one. You are a unit. And so the same thing that's taking place with lowering the voting age is another attack on the family to sow division within the family. Because children, I have 3 children. I don't know about you, but I have 3 children, and my children do not know what's best for them. They don't.
That's your wife?
My wife, for the most part, yeah. But I am the leader of the household. I will decide what's best for the family. That doesn't mean I don't speak with my wife. You do understand that kings, right? Kings had counsel, and kings would consult with their queens as well. But the queen did not have the last say. I have the last say. That doesn't mean I can't listen to my wife and my wife doesn't have good advice or good counsel and that I won't change my mind because of my wife. But yes, I am the authority in my household. And my wife is the direct authority over my children because she's at home with them all the time. So she's the one that's doing a lot of the raising. But yeah, and now they're trying to lower the voting age to 16, which will sow division right again inside the household. So this whole giving everybody the right to vote is sowing division.
Let's say you're the king of the USA. What would you do? How would you fix these problems?
I don't know. I'm not the king. I don't plan on being the king. So I don't think about what I would do to fix these problems. But the first thing that I think everybody should be doing is localizing your supply chains, becoming more self-sufficient and having big families and increasing your moral standards by finding God.
Okay. I mean, low key, it's what, I'm not religious. So whenever, at first I was having a hard time understanding why you believe the stuff you believe until you said you were religious, because religion gives people an excuse to say some silly things and then they act like it's some type of moral standing, and because you use God as your shield for your beliefs. And I mean, that's cool, man, but the thing, there is no going back to what you want. You're never gonna ever that's cool that your wife is down with you being king, but the rest of the women on our country, they're not going to feel that way ever.
You're wrong. So, you're 100% wrong. It's already changing. And I get it. A lot of people are not, and I mean no disrespect, a lot of people are not intelligent enough to see the patterns that are taking place. But the course is changing, my friend. It is changing
We're
quickly.
we're way more secular and less religious. So we're changing how?
Yeah,
like
so
changing because you're
no,
more inside of an echo chamber.
No,
like
not at all. So you can see the change in the real world already. More people are getting tired of what's taking place from the left wing, from the right wing. That's how it begins, man. So you have to think multi-generational here. And if these certain patterns continue, people are going to become more religious. People are going to become more God-fearing. And this is how it happens in every declining empire.
So how do you explain the factual statistical decline in religion?
Yeah, because so I can explain it very well. Because religion has been hijacked and corrupted. A lot of Christians are not actually Christians. They want the money, they want the power, they want to touch little children. It's disgusting, it's abusive. A lot of Christians are not Christians. They are churchians and not Christians. They do not fear God. They do not fear Christ. You have so many idiotic Christians out there that say, all I need to do is accept Jesus Christ as my Savior and I'm saved. False. That's not even what the Bible teaches. So there are so many delusion-programmed sickos that use religion as a power tool and as an excuse to permit bad behavior. That's why religion has declined, because you don't even have to be that intelligent to understand that there's an enormous amount of hypocrisy within Christianity. You don't. I mean, everybody sees it. Everybody sees it. So that's why it's declining. But it's actually on the rise as well. So it is declining, but now we're starting to see more people go back to Christianity because they've witnessed evil firsthand, or they see it in their world around them, maybe not firsthand, but in what they read and what they see and how they see the politics are changing. So they see evil as real. And so now we're seeing more people comfortably saying, I'm spiritual and not religious. That's one step. And then the next step is, I'm no longer spiritual, I'm religious, because you can't just you can't be spiritual without religion, because that just means that you can go off with anything. But we won't go off on a theological rant. But that is a very bad place to be. But that's better than not being spiritual at all. So we do see the pattern of more people getting into crystals, getting into astrologies, getting into spirituality as a whole, Buddhism, philosophies, different thoughts about the afterlives, etc. So there is a change in course happening right now, and that's because of evil. And now now a lot of people are realizing, okay, there has to be a force of good, and that force of good must be a higher power. But a lot of people can't put their finger on it. And that's actually changing. So yeah, that's what I would say to that. That is changing, and over the next, I would say, generation, you will see a huge increase. It maybe won't be the majority yet, but you'll see a huge increase in people identifying as Christians, specifically Catholic or Orthodox Christian. I think it's going to be about 40 years before we really see big pumps of numbers on that. But it's happening right now.
I mean, I think people are, there's a lot more religious people who are becoming more vocal. But I think it's the same amount. I think it's that same minority that is shrinking, and now they're just screaming at the top of their lungs. And it's the same reason why, like, for example, like white people who are like upset about diversity, like they're screaming about it because it's because they are becoming a minority,
which is understandable.
I don't think it's like progress is inevitable. Like if why didn't we just stay as religious? And you know what I mean? Like it's like if we were always like, we used to be a relatively religious country, but even then, like, it was a different type of religion. People just, because it's not like I don't mind you staying home, and like if you worship God and you worship God in your home and you pray and it's a personal thing, that's one thing. But people are trying to now push their beliefs on others. And that's you're always gonna get pushback from that. And because that's why I think it's actually gonna go sharply in the other direction. I think we're in about 40, 50 years, you're gonna go from 30% religion to like 10%, if that. Like, it's gonna drop because of this whole, like, people now saying they're Christian nationalists, and they want no more separation of church and state. They want their religion forced on.
No, so that's a misconception. No Christian nationalist, no sane one is saying to force your religion upon anybody. because forcing conversion does no good. It doesn't actually help the nation. It doesn't. So nobody wants to force it.
I
and
mean,
so
you should say something to like a lot of conservative leaders and stuff.
Yeah, I don't like conservative leaders. Conservative leaders are not Christian nationalists. They're puppets. They're theaters. They're not though. They're not. They're trying to hijack the movement. They're trying to hijack the movement is what they're doing. They're literally trying to.
Good job.
No, they're not. No, they're not.
But they have way more viewers. Like you got 50-something viewers right now.
I'm on the come up, my man. I'm on the come up. I will be up there with Nick Fuentes and people like him. So yeah.
Well, you don't like him then, I'm assuming?
I'm not the biggest fan of him. I think he has some good ideas, but his idea that people shouldn't be going to the farms, they should be going to the cities and getting political, don't really agree with that. His view on women, as far as, the way he acts around them and talks about them, I think he might be closeted, in my opinion.
But do you not see the similarities between you and him?
Once again, we have similarities, but there's a lot of things I disagree with him on. We agree that the church and state should not be separate. The difference where we are is I don't think the Catholic Church should be the one that's working with the state. I think the Orthodox should be working with the state. I also think that women are supposed to work, but they're not supposed to prioritize work over children. And I do think that once women have children, they should solely, if they can, focus on their child and raising and homeschooling their children. He doesn't believe women should be in the workplace. I think that women do have a place in the field, but it's not in every job. No, for sure. Like women shouldn't be police officers. They shouldn't be in the military. They should be in nursing. They should be in healthcare. They should be in babysitting. They should be in cleaning. They should be in even fine dining. They should be in things that suit their particular build and their mind. Obviously, there's outliers, right? Where there's going to be a better woman lawyer than all the lawyer men. There's going to be a better, engineer woman than an engineer man. Of course, there's going to be outliers. But on the whole, I think that society should function at its best. And so you cater to men and women's strengths and weaknesses. And so if a woman wants to work, I think it should be more so first off, it should always try to be out of the home, especially in today's world. But if that's not the option and you have to go outside of the home, it should be in, like I said, something like healthcare, where mostly other women would be in. Yes. So that's where he and I would disagree, probably.
I mean, I don't know, dude. Like a lot of the women in your own comments are heavily disagreeing with you.
That's okay because they're lost. It's all right. Women need leadership. They're lost.
And you know what I'm saying? You're like what makes you think you're going to convince them with your rhetoric? You know what I mean? Like
I'm being very dialectical at this point. I'm giving you logical reasoning, and you have yet to say anything to refute my logic except for you disagree. And that you're appealing.
You haven't cited any sources. I'm giving I'm saying, hey, the women that are listening right now are grossed out.
Yeah, so here's what you're using. You're using appeal to the masses, and you're also using appeal to authority. I'm using appeal to reason. You're saying the masses disagree, and where is your authoritative figure?
Think it's reasonable to tell them what they can and can't do.
Tell me why. Tell me why it isn't. Stop giving me sources and stop telling me they disagree and give me logical feedback.
Because they're grown adults.
What does that mean?
Their own decisions.
So what about somebody who has an IQ of 40, which they are grown adults? They're 28 years old and have an IQ of 40. That means they're functionally incapable of taking care of themselves, but they're a full-grown adult.
Are you saying that these women all?
No, I'm not. So this is why it's hard to talk with somebody who can't use logic, because it's obviously not what I'm saying. Obviously,
you're not using logic, bud.
You're not.
You're using. And this is why it's hard to talk with religious people, because you just believe your absolute authority is religion, and you're right just because you are.
So I'm using logic right now.
I'm appealing to I'm not appealing to the masses.
I'm
appealing to other people's opinions. What do you mean? Like, is this not like? So you don't think there should be any type of like this? That I'm pretty much saying democracy.
I think
what do you think? People listening are saying thumbs down, and you're saying, well, they're all idiots.
Yeah.
So then what do you mean? So then you are the one who's that. You don't know that for a fact.
I do.
You know every single person is smarter than you. There could be people that you're listening right now that have higher degrees than you, that have better jobs than you, and yet you're just shutting everyone down because of why? Because of your opinion.
No, so I'm giving you logical feedback to your questioning, and then you keep once again repeating, this is appeal to the masses, right? Appeal to the masses is everybody in the comment section disagrees with you. That's literally appeal to the masses, all right? And then appeal to authority is, I'm not going to accept your reasoning until you give me a source. Those are two things that make you less dependent of a thinker. It makes you more of a sheeple than anything because you are incapable of deducing these things on your own.
Just listening to you?
No, you're not
giving me any sources. You don't have
exactly. Appeal to authority. Appeal to authority and appeal to the masses. I'm asking you to think logically alongside of me and give me logical feedback, except for this. No, you're not. What you're saying is this. So I'll
agree with you.
That's not logical feedback, my man. You're not actually critiquing me. All you're saying is appeal to the masses. People disagree with you. That's what you're saying.
Like I said, you asked me why, like I told you that the women they're grown and like so they can think for themselves. And you said, well, can a low IQ grown person think for themselves? And then I said, are you saying are they low IQ? And you're saying, no, I'm not saying that. So what are you saying?
Yeah. So all right, I'll explain it to you like you're two. If you are using the idea,
you can't hurt my feelings,
I'm not trying to. So, but I'm glad I got your attention. So, if you are asking me, well, you said women are full-grown adults, therefore they can do what they want to do. My question then was, what about a full-grown adult who has the IQ that makes them incapable of taking care of themselves, but they're a full-grown adult? My reason for asking that was this. Your only rationale was women are full-grown adults, therefore they can do what they want. Well, somebody with a 40 IQ is a full-grown adult. So by your logic, they should be able to do what they want.
But you're bringing up somebody that's of low IQ. What does that have to do
with
my
God.
Who's not
this
of
is
low IQ? I don't understand. Like,
this
you're
is
the one bringing up the low IQ person.
Oh, my God. I don't know how to explain it any different. This is so obvious to anybody who has an IQ above like 100 or above, what I'm saying. It is not that hard to grasp. What I am saying is there are some adults. Your rationale is women are full grown, therefore they are independent. Well, there are other full grown people.
I'm saying they're people, so they're independent.
But you literally said full grown adults. I'm using your exact words. Full grown adults. Women are full grown adults, therefore they are independent. But there are full grown adults that are both men and women who cannot be independent. That's my whole point.
Okay.
So your rationale is nonsense. Just because you're a full-grown adult doesn't mean you can be independent.
So women aren't allowed to be independent because there's dumb people out there.
No, once again, you are very silly, dude. I am saying you said women are full-grown adults, therefore they're independent.
Yeah.
I'm saying that not all full-grown adults can be independent. And I'm not saying that I'm not saying that about women or men. I'm saying that your reasoning is illogical.
No, it's not. How is it illogical? That doesn't make any sense. You're simply saying that there are dumb people out there, therefore certain people can't like that. All right, you can't make decisions for yourself because there's people out there. You're full grown. Why can't you make your own decisions for yourself? Yeah.
So I'll tell you why I can make full-grown decisions. I can make decisions by myself. I have the intellectual capability to do so. I have the I have the physical capability to do so. I have the obligation under my religion as a man to do something, to be participant.
There you go.
So
just say because my religion says
so. This is what this is.
People ever have to say, dude.
All right. So he's very annoying and not very intelligent, obviously. So I use literally 2 examples beforehand why I can make decisions on my own. My intelligence, my physical capability. I have a moral obligation to be a good person in my society and make good decisions, and to help. Okay? Women can also make their own decisions because they can have the intellectual capability to do so, and they can physically be fit to do so, and they also have a moral obligation to do so. So it's very silly. Hey, what's going on?
Hey, no, I was watching that. I'm sorry, I had to come back in.
It's all good.
I was watching that exchange between you and the last guest, and I wanted to kind of comment. First of all, I agree with just about everything you said, 100%. Because basically, you guys were having the exchange, and you were trying to illustrate to him and get him to understand kind of why we're at where we're at. Because he tried to kind of ask you about your religious views, and because again, when we talk about the nuclear family structure, because I believe that also, right? When we talk about that, and when we talk about the idea of traditional gender roles and all these other things, it puts a lot of people off, because to them, what you're saying is that, okay, if a woman has to be submissive to her husband or whatever the case is, what are you saying? Are you saying that she's a slave? This is not the 1950s, and so we're going to push back from that. And so earlier, I talked about how a lot of the political ideologies are dividing our public, right? And this is one of them. One of them is, like I said, feminism, because feminists have this idea that being a, quote, traditional woman or wife is an archaic 1950s idea. And so what's happening now is that you have people, and this is mainly on the far left, what they will do is they will push back on the whole notion of the traditional family structure to begin with. Now, again, I don't hate people who are, and this even goes into the alphabet community too. And again, I don't hate anybody due to their sexual orientation, whatever the case. People do what they want to in our country. However, if we're talking about traditional gender roles and what it means to be masculine versus feminine, these things are completely lost, right? Because first of all, people don't even know what a gender is now. You don't even know. People are so confused to the point to where you don't even, like, what's a gender? What's a man? What is a woman? What are these
Fact.
things? Okay. Since gender is a construct, you know what we're gonna do? We're going to throw these away entirely, because these things aren't real. They're socially constructed. They don't exist. And so these things, like you were talking about in regards to the family, they create a lot of division and chaos to the point to where you don't have families anymore. That's adding insult to injury right there. You see, and that's why families are broken. That's why you have a lot of mothers who are single households. There's so many different problems to where, and I agree with you. We're at a point where there's going to be all-out chaos, and maybe even a civil war. I hope not.
Yeah.
But
really quick, I just want to add something. So somebody commented, "Maddie, man, I thought only God can judge." You obviously don't know what you're talking about. And now I'm going to be a little, sometimes I get this way to the comment section just because they.
Go ahead. Talk your shit.
Yeah. So you obviously don't know what you're talking about, because God said, judge people by their fruits. So yeah, you can judge people. All right. Just don't be hypocritical in your judgment.
Oh, yeah. You have to use righteous judgment. I think that's what it says. I'm not a religious person.
Yeah, so it's basically judge people by their actions and their behaviors, not by what they say, and don't be hypocritical in your judgment. So if somebody is, let's say somebody's an alcoholic, and then you're over there judging them for being an alcoholic, but you come home every night and you drink 6 beers, you're being hypocritical in your judgment. Shame on you.
No, I agree with that. And so, just going back, I think, and you said something which was key in your debate with the other gentleman, which is there are not going to be a lot of people that see what it is that you see or what I see. There are not going to be a lot of people that see this because I believe that there are certain factors and certain entities, and what they've done is they've constantly made an effort to sort of dumb down our population to the point where it's very you're not going to be able to see this stuff coming.
100%. And I want to add this. Somebody says your Bible preaches unity and you're agreeing with inequality. My Bible preaches unity of human spirit, not of the ego, not of human physicality on this earth. You once again don't know what you're talking about. If you want to come on here and have a biblical debate, I guarantee you, you haven't even read one book in the Bible. One book. You think you know what you're saying, but you don't know what you're saying because you are programmed to believe Christianity and the Bible are bad. You're programmed to believe inequality is bad. Is it bad that you, a woman, can have a baby and I can't? That's inequality. That's inequality.
No, I was just going to let you talk your stuff, man. I know sometimes it gets rowdy in the comments, man. So
yeah, it's all good. You know, I think it's fun to have the interaction, but I tell you, TikTok's a cesspool of degenerates.
Oh, listen. And then you were, bro, like I said, I was just cleaning up and everything, and I was listening to every bullet point that you were talking about. I'm like, bruh, I thought I was the only person that because sometimes it gets when you have a certain position, like kind of what I have or what you have, it's very difficult to sometimes vent because there's not a lot of people that see this shit, bro. It's so crazy. Like I even talked about this one time. When I downloaded this, I only had this app for a couple months, bro. Right? And when I downloaded this app, I kid you not, every single live that I see, it's like, oh, tarot card readings. Check out the tarot card readings now. And then another one says, God's not real. He doesn't exist. To another one, hey, if you wanted me to tell your future, send me a cash app. Read this tarot to you. Like I see, or crystals, or you know what I mean? It's just like the weirdest, like it's like the leftist backwards satanic weirdest stuff. And I get, right. I'm not even religious, but I even see this shit, bro. Like something like our society has fallen from grace, bro. It's I don't know, man. I don't know, bro. We're in bad shape, dude. It's over, man.
I'm very hopeful though because God always wins in the end. So.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I'm not.
But I'm still lurk in the comments.
All right, sounds good, man. Sounds good.
That. Thank you.
Yep. Thanks for coming up. Hey, how's it going?
Hi. I was the one that made the comment about inequality and Christianity preaching equality. And I wanted to ask you, what is a spirit, a human spirit?
The human spirit is what gives you life, is what allows you to process the world in the way that you do as far as consciously, not materially with your brain, with your nervous system, although it works in conjunction with it, but it's the thing that is what makes you in your life.
Okay. Because when Osa was here, he did say something about the community. I'm thinking the LGBT. He was taking shots at the LGBTQ plus community. So I'm thinking, why didn't you correct that in terms of your idea of, being a believer and understanding what equality and unity is and what God preaches is that. And he was speaking against that.
I already said that Christianity talks about unity of the spirit, not of the ego.
Yeah, I'm just saying why you didn't hold him accountable for condemning that, actually.
Because those are sinful behaviors. Those go against the human spirit.
How is it sinful?
Because it's not normal. It's not natural. It's not godly.
What's normal to God? What is normal?
Yeah, so
how do we determine what's normal?
One of the first things that we're told to do, and this is even without religion, procreate. And you can't do that with any of those other ones.
Well, sex is not always used for procreation, obviously.
But that's the main reason why you do it.
Not for me.
Yeah, because you're probably extremely promiscuous, and that's not cool.
Promiscuous. I don't believe that actually exists, but okay.
What?
No, I don't.
Okay.
I think sex is natural. It's a natural thing.
I agree.
You can find a lot of people attractive and want to do things with people and enjoy the moment with people because I think that's what we're sitting here to do, is enjoy people on this earth. I don't think that's the only way you can enjoy people, but definitely, I don't think promiscuity is a thing.
Well,
and I'm coming from being an ex-Christian, by the way.
Yeah, I can tell you're not a Christian.
Oh no, I'm not anymore. I'm agnostic, actually.
Yeah.
I used to be raised Christian and raised into purity culture, etc., things like that. And then all of a sudden, I became a feminist. So yeah.
Yeah, you've been programmed successfully. They got you.
Programmed?
Yeah, I mean, the only reason that you're able to sleep with whoever you want to is because of birth control methods. Otherwise, every dude that slept with you.
Control, so I think you're judging me too quickly.
No, so birth control methods. Do you know what methods mean?
Oh, you mean like condoms and stuff like that?
Yes.
I'm infertile, so that's not going to happen for me. So.
Oh, you're infertile?
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. I don't know if I believe you, but that's cool if you are. That, you know.
I don't have any kids.
I guess.
I'm 28, so never had any kids. Well, and have fun with casual sex. So.
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
Well, the reason why people have a desire to have intimacy, whether they realize it or not, is because they think the other person would make a good father or a good wife. That is biologically, it is. You might not know it. So once again, subconsciously. But that's why people do it subconsciously. You're not aware of the subconscious. That's why I'm using the word subconscious.
Mind works. I know how the subconscious mind works.
Yes, so you're not aware.
You choose not always going to be the person that you think is a good father. Sometimes the person that you choose could be like temporary basis because you're trying to escape from trauma. The person that you could be using, it could be emulating a father in your past time. The person that you could be choosing could be somebody that you don't like, but have been accepting the offers of advantage. There's so many things that go on in your subconscious mind. It's not a black or white thing.
I know. Everything that you just said is exactly what I was talking about. Exactly.
So you were saying it in like an only context, but I just wanted to be a little bit more expansive.
Yeah, you can explain the nuances, but it doesn't negate anything I said because all of what you said apply to what I'm saying.
Yeah, I'm just saying just be a little bit expansive on why we choose people and why we are being where people
are. Yeah, but every time that you have intimacy with somebody, whether you realize it or not, it's because you see some potential in them on a parental level, on them procreating with you.
I think we could agree to disagree, but we can move on from there. So what's your issue with feminism and traditional homes and stuff like that? Are you pro-traditional homes?
I am pro-natural, pro-realistic. What optimizes society?
You think that traditional roles are realistic?
100%.
Why do you think they are realistic?
Because they optimize the family to function at its highest possibility.
Statistically speaking, I've seen that traditional roles have led to an let me try to find a word. An epidemic of women choosing to divorce men. Why do you think that is?
Yeah, so there's a couple reasons why women lead the charge in divorce rates, right? So women are responsible for like 70 to 80% of divorces in America right now in the West.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason that is one, financial. So it's very vain. It's like, oh, I can make more money than my husband, or I'm making more money than my husband, so I don't need a man. I'm going to be an independent bad bitch. Go get my Gucci bag. Go have my fun. So let me finish. I know. So once again, you got to listen to what I'm saying. I've had to repeat myself several times. So they're married. The wife now financially can say, I get the opportunity to make more money than my husband. I already said husband to begin with. Or I am making more money than my husband. So now I don't need my husband because women, whether they realize it or not, want a man that's higher status than she is, want a man that's more resourceful than she is, want a man that can protect her, whether they realize it or not, because that is their role in the world. Anyway, so that's one huge reason. Financial. This is all looked at, by the way. This is like mainstream studies. The other reason is grievances. And that's because of birth control precisely, it has messed with women's hormones to now they're getting with men that they wouldn't get with before. This is all proven, by the way, what I'm saying. That they wouldn't get with men before because their hormones are out of whack. So they're more likely to date and allow them to give them a child when they could be suboptimal genes. They could be effeminate men. And so grievances come in with, my man doesn't work as hard as I do. He doesn't do what I do. I have to do so much more around the house. I have to come home and work. Well, I have to go to work for 40 hours a week, and then he expects me to come home and clean the house. And he won't help me. He wants to sit around and play his video games. Those are literally the two reasons why women lead the charge against
I heard 3
divorces.
I heard 3.
No, there are 2. Grievances.
Financial.
Yes, grievances. Grievances encompasses everything else I said in the last statement. It's financial and grievances. Financial and grievances. And so all of those pursuits have, first off, the financial aspect. That's ludicrous. That's a vain pursuit. It's a vain pursuit. You can't take your money with you.
I don't think it's what you're saying, right?
It is. This has actually been studied and documented.
I've studied it.
They know as well. The reason why women divorce men.
I've studied. If you could look at this, you could look at the power and control wheel, because the power and control wheel, you can Google it. It does give you an indication of why certain tactics in relationships led to divorces and stuff like that. So I do recommend looking at that. And a part of the power and control wheel, they do talk about financial abuse, actually, and financial abuse actually does exist and contribute to the divorce rate. I'll give you an example of what financial abuse actually is, so people can be aware about financial abuse. Give me 1 second. Let me look it up for you. Power and control wheel. So yeah, it's called economic abuse. So there's certain examples I'm going to list: preventing her from getting or keeping a job, making her ask for money, giving her an allowance, taking her money, not letting her know about having access to a family income. So most of these tactics have to do with a certain type of relationship in which it shows up. So my question is, what type of relationship do you think financial and economic abuse could show up in?
I've already talked about this a lot earlier in the show, and you've been in the comment section pretty much the whole time.
No, I'm asking you a question.
I've already addressed this point about men and women working, about finances, about women assisting. So you should know my position. If you've been listening.
I'm asking you a question. What type of relationships do you think financial abuse would be prevalent in?
So first off, I don't agree that that's financial abuse to begin with. So first off, I don't agree with the premise that that's financial abuse.
It is financial abuse.
Yeah, we disagree. Can you hear me?
Do you think that these tactics show up in certain relationships?
Say that again.
What type of relationship do these tactics show up?
Once again, I don't believe that that's financial abuse. But they could occur in pretty much any relationship. I personally think
that it shows up in traditional relationships.
Yeah, they could, and they could also show up.
Traditional relationships, they do believe that the wife does stay at home and the man works. Yep. So if you're going to have a man doing the most of the work in terms of financial, you're leaving the women to have less access to finances, and that can be increase the risk of facing economic abuse.
Yeah, I don't believe in the idea of economic abuse in the way you're describing it at all. And also, this could be on the reverse side as well, in non-traditional roles where the woman is making all the money, right? And there's a stay-at-home dad.
Not really. Traditional, if non-traditional roles such as interdependence believes in personal autonomy and meeting your own needs, and also getting into a middle ground of what each partner is going to work on together in terms of
So you mean to tell
financial
me?
abuse, then no, I would not say
So
that.
you mean to tell me that if a woman is making more money than her husband, and her husband's a stay-at-home dad, those same tactics cannot be used?
No, we're talking about non-traditional
I
relationships.
know.
You
Right
can still
now,
have
we're
a
talking.
traditional
I literally
relationship while
just
the woman
said.
is still at home.
So once again, I literally
Hold on.
just said.
You can still have
No,
a
hang
tradition.
on,
I'm
hang on.
answering your
I
question,
said
sir.
no. You're not actually.
I'm trying to answer your question.
You're not actually because you didn't hear it.
Okay.
So what I said was,
I am answering your question.
no, you're not. So can non-traditional women who are going to work and they're the breadwinners and the husband is the stay-at-home dad, those same tactics,
You can still have traditional roles within, even if the woman is working and the husband is not.
No, you can't. So you're going to blame
Yes,
everything.
you can.
You're going to blame everything on traditionalism as to reasons why what you believe to be economic abuse
Yeah, in
is.
2022, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm just talking to a wall. That's cool. Anything else you want to talk about?
I personally believe that if you were to look into relationships such as interdependent, and you believe that both partners are supposed to achieve their full, authentic, whole selves, especially in terms of access to money, stability, etc. I don't see how there's anything wrong with each partner having their own type of money and contributing into the household, instead of one partner, which is more of a traditional relationship, one partner having all the money and the partner doesn't.
Yeah, so that's not a traditional view at all. I've already listed the traditional view. The traditional view is the woman should prioritize the children over making money, but that does not mean that she can't make money.
Why is it only the women prioritizing? Is the father also being involved?
Of course.
Okay, so that would be non-traditional then.
No, it wouldn't, because you don't understand what traditionalism is. Literally in the Bible, it talks about what a good woman is in Proverbs 31, and a good woman is also providing for her family financially if need be. But her priority is to the home and and her kids, not to making money. The husband's role, his priority is to provide protection, physical protection, and resources. The woman is supposed to provide nourishment. Human nature doesn't change. Human nature doesn't change. It's consistent always. It's just been corrupted by societal programming to make people like you believe in 2022 it won't happen. History always rhymes. We are seeing the current pattern that had taken place at the fall of pretty much any empire throughout history. Liberation is used as a tool of control. Human nature is not consistently changing. That is a false belief.
Subjugation is a form of control, not liberation.
No, liberation is control.
How is liberation control?
Yeah, so you now are free to do whatever you want, so then you become addicted to your vices. You become a prisoner to your vices via liberation.
Okay, I have never heard that before. I'm going to have to do research on that. I never heard somebody say liberation is a form of control. Honestly,
I know, because it's programming. Don't listen to Andrew Tate. He's not Morpheus. I'm Morpheus. I'm giving you the red pill right now. Take it.
I don't listen to Andrew Tate.
I know. I was joking.
Yeah, what about free will? That's what I'm saying. Like, free will is liberation. So
yeah, free will is good.
Free will.
I have nothing against free will.
It's a form of control.
No, it's not. You obviously don't understand what free will is.
So what's the difference between free will and liberation?
Free will means that you can do whatever you want. Liberation is also allowing you to do whatever you want, but it is encouraging you to do whatever you want. Whereas free will is saying you have the choice to do it, but if you make the wrong decision...
Doesn't the Bible encourage us to do free will?
It doesn't
encourage us to be free.
It doesn't. So you have almost like no understanding of the Bible, by the way. It's kind of funny that you keep bringing it up.
I'm asking you a question.
Yeah, I know. It's just funny that you keep bringing it up because the Bible doesn't say you have the ability to do free will. It's saying that you have free will. It's innate within inside of you.
Mm-hmm.
However,
so the Bible should also. So if it's God's will to have free will, right? 100%. And there are certain things, right, in life that inhibit us from said free will. Wouldn't that be subjugation? And doing the work and being encouraged to seek liberation means seeking God's will of free will.
No, because God's will is not free will. God's will is a certain path that people can choose because of free will.
Okay, well, I think that this was a good debate. I think it's like a kind of like a 50-50, but I definitely learned a lot here about you and about your belief system. So I think it's been a very good conversation. So thank you for having me here.
Right on. Thanks for coming on. All right. We got a couple other people that want to join in. Hey, what's going on?
Hey, how are you?
I'm doing well. Yourself?
I'm great. I was wondering, I couldn't see the background for so long in that last two things. Monarchy is the way.
Yep.
Wow. Can you tell me a little bit more about that?
Yeah, I think monarchy is the best form of government. Historically, it's the longest lasting government, and it is arguably the oldest, if not one of the oldest, longest governments to ever exist.
Very interesting. I have no comeback for that. But I would, can we talk about the scripture a little bit? You seem like a guy who's open to that.
Sure.
I'm just going to read a small passage, Matthew 23:26 to 28. You know the definition of a Pharisee, of course, right?
Yes.
It's like kind of like a hypocrite.
Well, that's not the definition of a Pharisee. A Pharisee is a set of Jews that were back in the Old Testament. But the Pharisees were known for being hypocritical, but that doesn't mean Pharisee is a hypocrite. It was a sect of Jews. They were like one of the religious judges.
Yes. Okay. So, blind Pharisee. First clean the inside of the cup and dish, and then the outside will be clean.
Boom.
Woe to you, teachers of the law and Pharisees. Kind of what you're doing right now. You're teaching law right now?
No, actually.
You hypocrite. You are like whitewashed tombs, which look beautiful on the outside, but on the inside are full of the bones of the dead and everything unclean.
Yeah.
In the same way, on the outside, you appear to be righteous, but on the inside, you are full of hypocrisy and wickedness.
I totally agree with that. That's a good passage that Jesus said on the Pharisees, because the Pharisees were being hypocritical.
Of the law and Pharisees are hypocrites. And what are you doing today?
Yeah, what I'm doing today is telling you exactly how I live my life, which is the opposite of being a hypocrite. And I'm not a Pharisee.
How you live your life, how should that affect me? How you want to live your life?
No, but I'm telling you and what I believe to be true and what I think would make the world a better place, which I have the right to do. And so you using that passage is actually kind of moronic, because I'm doing the opposite of the Pharisees. I'm practicing what I preach exactly to a T.
Okay. I really, what would you like to talk about with me?
You're the one that came up here.
There's so many. This is very true. I just think that what you're saying when you say that liberation is subjugation,
I never said that.
Really hard time.
What I said,
those two concepts together.
I never said that liberation was subjugation. I said that liberation makes you a prisoner inevitably to your vices. Those are my words.
Can you prove that to me, that liberated people become prisoners to their vices?
Yeah, we see it in the West all the time. People identify with their bad behaviors all the time.
Prove it. Is it a fact? Is it a study? How can you prove this to me in a way that I can look at and reference as well?
Yeah, just look in your own world. Alcoholics define themselves as alcoholics. Sexual degenerates identify with their sexual degeneracy. All of these things are examples of vices controlling you. And that was a result of a liberation to do as you wish. Do as you wish.
So you're saying that religious people don't have vices?
No, that's not what I'm saying.
Vices?
That's not what I'm saying at all.
But you're saying that people who are not traditional will fall victim to their vices and become a slave to that.
No,
so
that's not what I said at all. That's not what I said at all. Do you
are
understand that there's a difference between traditional and liberation? They're like not synonymous. You know that, right?
Okay. So tell me, explain it to me.
I've already did, literally.
Okay, so people who are liberated, right? I'm repeating back to you what I think I heard you say. That's a problem because they're going to become a slave to their vices.
Yes, there should be oppression on certain things. You should not allow people to just be sexual deviants. You shouldn't. You should not allow people to be drug addicts. Those are things that should be banned from society.
Okay, so by this logic, oppressed people should have no vices.
Not necessarily. You can still have vices, but they shouldn't be encouraged. That's my point. Liberation.
But you just said that the liberation makes you a slave to the vices. So by
inevitably, yes. But that doesn't mean that it doesn't.
With liberation.
Yeah. So no, it's not. It's not like some. It's not. What's the word I'm looking for? You can't. Why am I losing the word? Anyway, just because the logical state. No, you think that you've done something to me. You haven't. I'm trying to look for a word. The logical statement. Just because you reverse it doesn't mean it applies. There's a word for that I can't think of right now. But that's not the case. It doesn't mean that if you get rid of liberation, that you get rid of vices. Humans will always have vices. I'm saying that liberation will promote people to fall into more vices, whereas oppression would actually lead people out of vices. That doesn't mean that they won't fall into new vices. It will happen, but it will happen at a far less rate. What I'm advocating for is not the eradication of vices, because I understand that humans are flawed and we will fall into a type of vice. But this is where I believe God comes into play. He's very merciful and we can help us out. But that's not my point, that just because you do the opposite of liberation, you get rid of vices. That's not my point. Yeah. I'm saying that you mitigate.
I think maybe the word you were looking for but couldn't find, maybe was false dichotomy.
No, it's not a false dichotomy. No, it's literally, the definition means the opposite is also true. Conversely, there it is. Conversely.
Okay.
It's not converse.
So,
that statement is not.
People who are not oppressed by your logic have more vices. Now, if we can isolate this to maybe one vice, let's say alcoholism or drug use, can you prove to me that people who are liberated suffer at a higher causational rate than people who are oppressed of that same vice? Can you give me any proof that this is true? In this world where we have so much data and studies and things to look to.
Yeah, so if we look in the Middle East.
We wouldn't want to just do this off of an assumption, because this is pretty huge. Oppressing a bunch of people is a pretty significant move, and we have to know that it's the right move.
Well, we do know that oppression in your own personal life is good, right? You oppress your feelings to eat an extra plate of food so that way you can lose weight. You oppress your feelings of getting sleep. Yes, literally. You oppress your feelings. Maybe not you. Maybe not you.
I enjoy.
Maybe not you, but you get my point. All right? My point is, you oppress certain emotions that you have because you know that those emotions will not serve you well. All right? Are those actions that you want to do?
I work through all of my feelings.
I think you're just being stubborn, because I'm literally describing something everybody does. You don't want to go to work today, right? You can literally extrapolate this.
I'm not telling you anything about what
you can. No, you're not understanding me. So you can literally apply this to anything. Okay. You can apply this to anything in your life. All right. So I'm oppressing the feeling to not want to go to work today because I got to go to work and make some money. All right. Those are forms of internal.
Work, I just call PTO.
Oh my gosh. You oppress certain feelings inside of yourself. So that way you can do the things you know that need to get done. And if you don't,
Why are you telling me what I do?
Because everybody does that.
Just have a conversation based on facts.
It's literally everybody oppresses.
Or your personal truth.
Literally,
saying, like, you do this, and I don't
literally, so first off, you're getting triggered because I keep saying you, but I'm using you in the general term. But literally everybody, every human, there are certain things that they will oppress to do something else, even if they don't. So they don't want to do something. There's times you don't want to do something, generally speaking. You then don't do that, but you want to do it, but you don't do it because there's something more important to do. All right. So now, if we look at a certain example of oppression throughout governments, we see that in the Middle East.
I can't agree with that. I don't see places in my life now that I'm a healthy person and I'm healed and not broken as I was probably different times in my life, that I'm oppressing parts of myself. I'm here to show up as my full self and allow myself grace.
Oh my God. I think you're being difficult on purpose because there are certain things that you will want to do, but you don't do because you have something more important to do.
Sometimes.
Exactly. That's my whole point. That's my whole point. That's my whole point in what I'm saying. So you got this on. Everybody experiences this. Yes, you. Oh my God, you are just triggered. You are triggered by the word oppression. You are literally triggered by the word oppression. Anyway, so let's look at it on a bigger scale. My whole point with that is we all have on a microcosm, individually, internally. You can literally, you do it every day. Generally speaking, you do this every day. Generally speaking, woman. Generally speaking. Everybody does this every day. There are certain things that they don't want to do, and they do it anyway. And so you're oppressing other emotions that contradict it. Boom, 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 boom. Now, on a grand scale, extrapolating out, we can look at the Middle East. The Middle East says no to your rainbow flags and pride movement. And you don't have that there. I would argue that is a very good thing.
No, I lived in Morocco and I went to all the underground clubs over there. They definitely.
Yeah, it's oppressed, and you will be. It won't be treated well being caught. There can be. Nobody said that there's not underground clubs. Nobody said that there. Guys, there were literally speakeasies during the abolition when alcohol was illegal. Of course, there's going to be underground clubs. Just because something is illegal doesn't mean it doesn't exist. That's faulty logic. My point is, it's not accepted by society. It's not accepted by society or the government.
There's definitely lots of Middle Eastern cultures that have like little boy things going on as part of their tradition.
Yes, that does happen, but it's not a favorable thing. It's not something. You can find all the exceptions you want, but the exceptions do not disprove the rule, rather. That's my point.
Rule? What rule?
Oh my God. All right, I'm done. So, all right, guys, I do have to go. I got some stuff I have to do. I have to go find a car. Got to go find a car because we're without a car right now. My car broke down earlier this week. It's something I've been talking about almost every live stream. So, yeah, you guys, if that's the best you have, there's this thing called an IQ gap. I swear to God, I experience this every time I come on, nearly every time, where you're explaining something that's very logical and the person just doesn't understand it. And so the more I'm talking to the general public like this, I am realizing that the IQ gap is real. It's very real. So, yeah, because there's a communication gap, right? 30 IQ points, it has a hard time communicating ideas, abstract ideas, and ideas like we're talking about. So, yeah, I mean, if you want to pay for me to take an IQ test, I'll take it. If you want to pay for the IQ test, set it all up, cool, awesome. All right. But I'm going to get out of here. I need to hear about China and Saudi Arabia, bro. Yeah, really quick. Here it is. China and Saudi Arabia partnering up for energy purposes. And it's going to slowly wean the U.S. off of, slowly going to wean the USA's influence over the world. So, all right, guys, I'm going to get out of here. Much love. We'll be back tonight, by the way, with Mick. Mick will be here for MOT today at about midnight. So it will technically be tomorrow, but it's still going to be today. You know what I mean? Like, yeah. But all right, guys. Much love. Peace.